Before we begin, I want to thank the IREM Foundation for sponsoring this next session. For years, the foundation has been committed to supporting programs through IREM that encourage diversity in the industry. The IREM Foundation knows that continued dialogue around inclusion, along with opportunities to recruit, attract, and elevate diverse leaders, will only make the industry stronger. Enjoy this message from the IREM Foundation that celebrates all real estate managers and their impact during COVID-19.
Our jobs are not easy.
We are often misunderstood.
What we do is about more than just collecting rent.
It's about creating safe and healthy spaces
for the communities we manage.
In the past few months, we've seen real estate managers do amazing things.
You're keeping the buildings that we use safe
by providing increased cleaning and support.
For our homes, grocery stores, restaurants, for our hospitals.
And we've seen you go above and beyond.
Supporting vulnerable tenants.
Providing rent assistance.
Offering support and signs of hope.
We don't see ourselves as heroes.
We just want to do what's right.
And when it's time to open all of our buildings safely,
we know you will go above and beyond to deliver.
On behalf of the IREM Foundation, thank you.
You are not invisible.
You are essential.
Share your work and celebrate each other by posting with the hashtag IREMCares and the hashtag IREM Foundation.
Visit IREM.org for free resources and support.
We've got this.
Hello, chapter leaders. I'm Renee Savage, your Secretary Treasurer nominee. Gosh, I've really enjoyed this program so far, and I hope you have too. I also hope that during the break, you are able to watch our next speaker's interview with President Sherrill. If not, please check it out, because after you hear him, you will definitely want more. He's that good. Simon says, hard conversations are good business. Please welcome Simon T. Bailey.
Thank you so much. I have a question for all of you. If you are ready to elevate your leadership as a chapter leader, as executive council, as IAEs, I want you to put just yes in the chat, just yes in the chat. And if you said yes, then I want to invite us into having a hard conversation, which is really good business. And here's the other thing. I'm curious to find out, where are you from? So post that in the chat, because I know we have so many amazing leaders from all over the country, and I just want to know where you're based at. I am here in Orlando, Florida, Windermere, Florida, exact. I'm on the backside of Disney. So pre-COVID-19, I can walk outside, stand in my driveway, and watch the Disney fireworks for free. Go figure. So we've got people that are from Cleveland, Austin, Dallas, the OC, Orange County, Cincinnati, San Diego, one of my favorite places in the country. Love San Diego. And so glad to have all of you here. So here's the deal. A lot has transpired in the last few months here in the greatest country in the world. And before we can look through the windshield of tomorrow, I want to invite us to look through the rear view mirror to really understand, why do we need to have the hard conversation? After the murder of George Floyd, and certainly if you've been following the news, another Black man was shot 7 times in the back by Wisconsin police officers, and obviously there were riots less than 24 hours ago. And often people say, why are we at this movie again? Well, if we were to look back in history, specifically to the 1700s, what was going on during that time is that slaves were only considered 3/5 a human. I'm curious, how many of you remember in American history ever being taught that Black people or slaves were 3/5 a human? Just put yes or no in the chat. Because if this is the first time that you're hearing this, you're probably wondering about the backstory. And the backstory is whenever they were considering the number of seats in Congress, they were deciding how they would count slaves. And so it was decided by the founding fathers of America that slaves would only be accounted 3/5 a human. Now, when you look at that, the deeper root of that is that whites were superior and blacks were inferior. And that has been baked into the DNA and the culture of America since its founding. And so here we are all over again, where everyone is in an uprace to understand what's going on. And if you're ready to wake up and speak up, just put yes in the chat. Because if you're ready to wake up and speak up as a leader, here's what I want us to think about. Real leadership is about leading change. Everything else is managing the status quo. And when you decide to lead change, here's what we have to understand. How do I move from unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence? In other words, when I have unconscious incompetence, I don't know what I don't know. But when I move to unconscious competence, I know, and I'm practicing every single day to get better. Now, let me give you a little data just to establish a context. And then after I walk you through the data, I want to look at specifically purpose, process, payoff. Think of that as a framework. And then I want to give you 5 quick tools that you can implement immediately to really think about this journey that all of us are on together. And so the reason why I want to have this dialogue with you is because I believe that you are wicked smart, as they would say in Boston. All right. So here's what the data says. And let's look at the Minneapolis-St. Paul, affectionately known as the Twin Cities. And this data is from NPR Planet Money. What you may not know prior to George Floyd being murdered is that the median household income for white families in Minneapolis-St. Paul, the Twin Cities, is about $84,139. The median household for African-American families is only about $38,700. The other interesting thing about the Twin Cities is that if whites own their homes, say 3/4 of the white community own their homes, only 1/4 of the Black community owns their homes in the Twin Cities. Did you know that Blacks are incarcerated 11 times more in the Twin Cities than whites? Did you know that in the Twin Cities that they have the worst educational achievement system in the country? In fact, they're ranked 50. Now, to put that into context for you, the Gallup scientists did some research, and what they've come to understand is that here in the United States, there are about 75 million students in 5th to 12th grade. What the Gallup scientists have discovered is that 30% of the 75 million students that are in 5th to 12th grade will not graduate on time. And a significant percentage of them are African American and Hispanic. So when you look at this, I want you to think about your community that you live in. You just told me where you're from. Here's the question. What is the equality for Black people in your community? And because of the haves and the have-nots, one of the interesting things in the research from NPR is that the inequality gap in the Twin Cities is growing bigger and bigger. So what is happening right now, you have men and women that are showing up in a COVID-19 environment with economic insecurity, food insecurity, and they are losing hope for a better future. So the reason we have to have the hard conversation is we have to understand the pain of what individuals have gone through. Just to give you a little bit of my backstory, I've had 30 years of experience. I've worked for 6 different companies, 10 different jobs. My last job was sales director and new business development director for the Disney Institute. I left Disney 18 years ago to create my own company. And for the last 18 years, I've had an opportunity to work with 1,800 organizations in 49 countries. I've written 10 books. And that's just the professional side, but the personal side, and probably the most important side, is that I am the father of 2 amazing, amazing young people. Do I have any parents out there? If you're a parent, just say yes in the chat. I have a 21-year-old son who is in college right now. He is a junior. And I have an 18-year-old daughter that's getting ready to go to college, just finished high school and is starting college in a few weeks and excited about it. She called me today and said, "Dad, I applied for a job at the newspaper." I said, "Go for it." So lots of parents. So I share this story with you with a heavy heart. And even we have some grandparents. So as a father, I received a call one day. I have my children every other weekend. They come to stay with me, even though they don't have to. They just choose to. They want to come and hang out with Dad. And I got a call from the sheriff's department here in my community because my son was here and he said, "Dad, I'm going to go down to the pool in our community." And I said, "Take a book with you." And he went down to the pool. It's about maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And the sheriff's office called and said, "Is your son Daniel?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Someone called the police on your son because they did not recognize him at the pool." And I said, "Officer, yes, that is my son." And the officer said, "Your son did nothing wrong. I just wanted to let you know." So in the middle of the afternoon, the sheriff's office walks my son from the pool back to our house, which is about a 5 to 7 minute walk through the neighborhood. And my son comes in the door. I open the door. I say, "Hello, officer. Thank you so much for walking my son home in the middle of the day when he did nothing wrong." I hope that you can feel the intensity of what I felt, but that's just one incident. Another time, as soon as I found out about the murder of George Floyd and so many other names, Trayvon Martin, and the list goes on, I had to sit down and have the talk with my son. And the part of why I'm taking this time just to give you a little of the backstory is because if you are not a Black person, then this is a conversation you don't have to have with your son. But I had to have this conversation with my son and my daughter. And here's how the conversation goes. "Daniel, Madison, if you are ever pulled over by the police, what is our protocol?" And our protocol is, "Dad, my hands need to be at 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. And what do you say next? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, officer. Officer, my license is in my back pocket," or for Madison, it's in her purse. "Officer, I'm going to reach for my license. Officer, my registration and insurance is in the glove compartment. I'm going to reach over, officer, and share that with you." This is the conversation that I have to have as a father with my son. So imagine I'm getting ready to launch them out into a world where they are going to be working, where individuals may just have unconscious bias and not even recognize it because of how things have been hardwired into our psyche as American citizens to perceive Black people in a different way. So you're probably saying, okay, Simon, what does unconscious bias look like? It's the behavior that happens to really shut people down, and it's those little things. So here's a question. How can my chapter make progress in this area if our local population isn't very diverse? And that is such an important question. And I'm going to answer that question in a moment, but let me give you some examples of what it looks like. And so as a chapter, we can begin to think about how do we show up in a different way. So I have a cousin, and in our family, her name is Shaquita. Shaquita graduated from Northwestern with an undergrad degree and a master's degree. She lives in the Chicago area, and Shaquita began to apply for jobs and never received a call back for an interview or any takes on her resume. And she couldn't figure this out because here she has graduated from a prestigious university, graduated with honors, and not getting any calls. So here's what she did. Shaquita changed her name to Kendall, legally changed her name to Kendall. And all of a sudden, start to get calls, start to get interviews, landed many job offers, and could pick or choose because her name was Kendall instead of Shaquita. That's bias. Another example is there's something called affinity bias, where you can have an affinity to based on where a person lives, or if they like country music, or if they went to a certain school. So one of the things, as you think about your chapter, how do you make progress in your local area, is to first of all, be aware. What is it that I don't know about people who don't look like me? And as I am intentional about recruiting people into our organization, how do we help educate them on how do we show up in a fresh way? So let me give you 5 quick things to think about. I want to leave some time for questions that you may have, and then we will take it from there. First thing, I want you as a chapter to begin to think about, are we making an emotional commitment or rational commitment as it relates to diversity and inclusion? Emotional commitment is we as a chapter, we do what we do because we want to do it. Rational commitment is we do it because we have to do it. In other words, it's the hot topic and it's the flavor of the month. And making that emotional commitment really starts with when we recruit at the college level for people to join this amazing real estate profession. Are we intentional to let them know that we are committing to you and we want you to know that you belong? So creating belonging, critically important as you invite people into this amazing field. Here's the other thing from a chapter level. When you look around your leadership, is the leadership group intentionally diverse, or does everyone look like you? When you make that emotional commitment, someone will raise their hand, speak up, speak out, speak early, speak often, to say we want diversity and inclusion, not because it's just the hot thing to do, it's the right thing to do. Here's what the research says. Harvard Business Review said teams that have diverse point of views, they solve problems quicker, faster. If everyone around the chapter leadership or in your executive council looks like you, could it be that your circle is too small? So how do we begin to think about recruiting and onboarding and engaging individuals of color to let them know that you matter to us? And we are making a commitment to you that we want to see you as a part of our organization. Here's the next thing. And this is the big idea, number 2. How do we stay consistent? And I believe staying consistent is the follow-up and ensuring that people know that they matter. So what does that look like? When I first joined Disney a number of years ago, I was about to leave the organization after literally 90 days. I was gone because I couldn't get anything done. And I got a call from the HR recruiter and she said, how's it going? I said, when I hit the 90-day mark, I am out of here. I'm gone. And she said, what's wrong? I said, I can't get anything done. I don't know my way around because I had worked for an organization that had 100 employees. Now I'm working for an organization that has 64,000 people working within 47 square miles, and they're all walking around singing, "It's a Small World After All." And she said, I'm going to connect you with two executives. And she connected me with Jim and with Brad. And what would have been only 90 days turned into 7 years because I began to understand that they were consistent in following up with me as to how I'm doing. So practical tip, be a sponsor, create an allyship, create a buddy system. When you recruit people of color, Black people, to join your chapter, ensure that they have a buddy that teaches them the rules of engagement, how things work. Politically, things that are not written down, just the little idiosyncrasies of the organization, because it'll create more stickiness and ensures that they want to stay. Those of you who are industry veterans, as leaders, who are you mentoring right now? Who are you sponsoring right now? And there's a difference between mentoring and sponsoring. Mentoring is you tell a person what you've learned, but sponsoring is I'm going to wear your brand t-shirt and ensure that you get put on select committees that you don't have access to or they don't know about your skill set, and they want to engage you even more. So when you are consistent in that follow-up to let people know that you matter to us, that we want you to be a part of what we're doing, critically important. Third way is our communication. Now, before I get into some specific things around communication, one of the questions that I see that's popped up is, what are some positive, constructive ways to address pushback on initiatives that some feel offended by? When people say, I don't see colors, so why do we need to harp on this? I wish I had an hour on that question, okay? If a person says, I don't see color, all right, I just want you to think about that for a moment. I don't see color. You had to see color to say, I don't see color. So when a person says, I don't see color, I love everybody. I treat everybody the same. And that may be true. You treat everybody the same. But the reality is you have people who don't look like you, who don't feel included or feel like they matter. So positive ways is to extend yourself to say, may I ask you a question? Tell me your story. I would like to get to know you. I would like to better understand you because I'm honest, I don't know what I don't know. And it's that opportunity to be honest, to say, I don't know what I don't know, that shows that you're willing to communicate in a fresh new way and to really understand that communication is not always just talking, but it's listening. And it's saying, here's what I heard you say. Is this what you meant? When I made this statement earlier that whites are superior, that's what has been embedded in the culture of America, and Blacks are inferior. Gallup did another survey just about 45 days ago, and they asked Black adults in America, if there are 330 million Americans, about 40 million are African American or Black Americans. And they asked them, what's happening real time? And they said, 32% said, I am treated as if I'm not smart. I am treated as if I'm less than. I'm treated as if I'm not seen. So one of the things you can do within your chapter is to double down on your communication to make sure you are highlighting Black professionals and what they're doing amazing and right and awesome, because now that sends a message that the chapter is not just putting communication out via video, via email, but they are intentional about highlighting Black professionals. And when people begin to see people that look like them in an organization that is inclusive, it sends the message that you as an organization and as a chapter and as executive councils that you really care. Here's the other thing. In your diversity and inclusion groups, make the commitment and the ongoing communication to ask, what is it that we're missing, that we are not doing, that we should be doing, and hold yourselves accountable based on their feedback. And don't assume that it's going to be an easy conversation and that it's a check the box. No, this has to be ongoing dialogue. So you're probably saying, so Simon, how do we ensure the continuity? What you measure in and what you assess continues. What you don't measure. So are we looking at, as we recruit volunteers to be a part of our chapter, is it a diverse pool? Is it a diverse set? Are we asking for everyone to find people that just don't look like us and being intentional about that? And when we do have members that join us in our chapters who are from marginalized communities, do we give them a hand up and not just a hand out? And what that means, do we help them understand how to be successful as a professional? How do we get them ready for the CPM? And then how do we ensure that they are put right into the mix of everything that we're doing? The other things is to check in every 30, 60, 90 days. That's right. Check in with people that you recruit to your chapter, 30, 60, 90 days. First 30 days, how's it going? 60 days, what have you seen? What have you learned? 90 days, what can we do better as a chapter? And in asking that question, they're going to give you feedback in the moment that will just say, whoa, we haven't thought about that. So if you want to continue this, say, and let me take it a step further. Don't even wait to 30 days. What if you do a round robin within 7 days of them coming to a virtual chapter meeting, or when we can meet in person once again, that they receive a phone call from leadership saying, we are so glad you came to the meeting. We're so glad that you attended virtually. How can we help you be successful? What? That's going to blow them away, because all of a sudden they're going to know that I belong, that I matter. And when that happens, people start to show up in a fresh way, because now they know that they're not a number, but they really matter. So here's the fourth thing to think about. How do we become curious? Curious to understand what is happening in the Black community. And there are so many books that I would encourage you to read, but one book I would encourage you to read, you can go to Amazon or you can Google it, is The Color of Law. And this book, especially as it relates to the real estate industry, will help you understand how redlining and so many laws have impacted Black people for decades. And now you as a chapter and as an association have the ability to be the difference that makes the difference. And when that happens, I'm here to tell you something powerful happens. Here's the other thing. How many of you, when I talk about hard conversations is good business, will start the hard conversation at your dinner table with your family members? How many of you, if you're really serious about this work, how many of you would invite a family into your home that doesn't look like you? Why would I do that? Okay, that's a bit much. What would it be like to go out to dinner or a cup of coffee with someone that doesn't look like you? It's that curiosity that I believe allows us to continue to grow. And that leads me to the fifth, and that is connection. This whole thing of conversation is really understanding, how do we begin to respect and recognize people who don't look like us for the value that they have? How do we recognize them? What are the awards that we give at our chapters? And are we intentional to make sure that we are giving awards to people of color? Now, hear me out. And I don't speak for all Black people. Let me just say that. But as a person who comes alongside you to guide you, hear me clearly. I'm not saying give Black people an award because they're Black. I'm not saying that. Because to my Black people, if you are not good and professional and an astute property manager, then you will not be rewarded. But I want to believe that Black people, you are good, better yet, you're great. And what I'm saying to my white brothers and sisters, that if you meet a Black person that is good and great, give them that hand up, not because you lose anything, but we gain. When you think about this, I need you and you need me. And if I need you and you need me, let me give you just a picture of a Black church experience. So if you go to a Black church experience, one of the things you will quickly notice is that Black people clap on 2 and 4. But when you bring a white person into a Black church, white people clap on 1 and 3. Here's the reality. We never miss a beat in our clapping because I need you and you need me. So the connection is, how often and early do we connect to our members to let them know that they matter and that they are important, that we see them, that we are committed to talking early and often, creating a sense of belonging when they come into our organization? How do we ensure that we're following up 30, 60, 90 days, checking in with them? How do we think about our programs and in our communication that we are keeping this front and center? Because I'm here to tell you, I'm gonna keep it 100%. This conversation is not going away. It's not ending, because it's a new generation that has literally risen up. And if we've been talking about this specifically for the last 50 years since Dr. Martin Luther King died, then we are the ones that now have the ability to say, how do I make a difference in my neighborhood, in my community, in my profession, in my chapter, on executive council? Not because I have to, but because I want to. I'm going to pause there. I want to field any questions that you may have. So please share questions. Lizzie's going to make sure I see the questions, and something to think about. Am I ready to make the commitment? What am I going to do consistently? What's going to be my communication as a leader? What do I need to do? Just as I think about unconscious bias, how do I think about the languaging that I'm using? And do I need to upgrade my verbal software? Because language is the software of the mind. First question, how can we make sure that we don't get stuck on just the diversity part? Okay, this is when you have to have the person on the team that says, guess what? We started and we stopped. Every call with your team, an agenda item should be, how are we advancing, and I use the word advancing, diversity and inclusion within our chapter. And then give specific examples of how it's being advanced. I would encourage you to have co-champions who will give a report out early and often. Here's what we're doing to advance D&I work and equity every single time as an organization. And if you get stuck, say, where did we get stuck? What's not working? What did work? Do we need feedback? Have we reached out to our other chapters around the country to find out what they're doing right and what we could be doing differently or better? Because it's just not enough to start. The breakthrough is in the consistency and doing the hard work, okay? Anybody else? What other questions do you have? I hope that you are thinking about connection, being curious, your communication. How do we think about how we're showing up to be consistent and make that commitment? How can we showcase how we're doing on progress? Create a video. Video is all the rage right now, 3 minutes or less by chapter. Post to YouTube what you are doing as it relates to diversity and inclusion. Be out front saying, you know what, here's what we've done right. Here's what we could have done better. I think also inviting those who are diverse members to give their feedback on how the chapter has created a sense of belonging, and let them, in their own words, 3 minutes or less, we don't want anybody to give a dissertation, but 3 minutes or less to share how they're doing. All right, so question is, what is the definition of diversity and inclusion? Now, all of you are sitting in front of your computers. You can easily toggle and you can look that up. So I'm going to give you my opinion. Diversity is when we have a diversity of thought, a diversity of mindset, a diversity of skill sets that engage to come together to solve a problem. Inclusion is creating an environment where men and women are psychologically safe to be the best version of themselves. So diversity, and I really think what this entire field should be renamed, it should be renamed conscious inclusion. Just the opinion of the presenter, but we have to work with what we have, and that is diversity and inclusion. So diversity is that diversity of thought, diversity of skill set, diversity of ethnicity, diversity of religion, diversity of what some may call sexual orientation, diversity of approaches, right? That's diversity. And we need everybody thinking about how are we leveraging everyone, no matter where they are, on the continuum of life, all right? How can you empower staff and build on an inclusive culture? I believe, first of all, finding out everyone's appreciation language on your staff. One of my greatest failures when I got promoted into a leadership role at Disney, got my corporate American Express card, thought I was hot stuff. The reality is I was a jerk. I did not know what I was doing as a boss, and little did I know how to really empower staff and really think through an inclusive lens. So I called the team together because I went to the management one-on-one class, and they said, you have to appreciate your employees and tell them like how valuable they are. So I said, woohoo, all right, I'm gonna do this. So I brought the team together, and I said, this month, Candace had a kick butt quarter, and we're recognizing Candace. And Candace turns flush red, runs out of the room. And I was like, huh? What just happened? And so I said to Beverly, my executive assistant at the time, I said, go after Candace and find out what happened. And Beverly came back to me. She said, Candace doesn't like public recognition. I was like, what? So I said, Beverly, what do you think we should do? Because all women are right. I'll let y'all catch that. If all women are right, just put yes in the chat. So Beverly said, you should send her a handwritten note to her home address with a personal stamp. We did that. Candace came to my office a few days later and said, that's how I want to be recognized. So if you want to build an inclusive culture, really find out, how do people want to be appreciated and valued? How do they want to be engaged? People have different learning styles. They're introverts, they're extroverts. So how do we engage them in the way they want to be engaged, where they feel included and that their voice is heard? Next question, how do we challenge status quo in a proactive, positive way? Because we really want to. So here's how you challenge the status quo. Celebrate what people are doing right in the D&I work, all right? And invite them to say, how can we make it even better? So what we're doing is we're inviting them in by not beating them up, by telling them, hey, here's how we've had progress, and here is what we can do going forward together. So it's moving from me to we. And when we move from me to we, then all of a sudden people really begin to understand how we are truly emotionally committed to this work, and not just have rational commitment because it's the Wendy Williams hot topic of the day, okay? What other questions do you have as it relates to hard conversations? I'm curious, can you just post in the chat what's resonating with you? What's a takeaway for you? What have you learned? And what are you going to go do? What are you going to go do? All right. Question, what types of measurements should we be using to benchmark progress? Okay, there's an organization, and full disclaimer, I have no affiliation with them. Did you hear me? I have no affiliation with them. I just often will suggest this tool. It's called Tiny Pulse, and they're out of the San Francisco area. And what I love about their work is they allow you to customize a pulse check type of survey with your organization, and you put it on a dashboard. And you literally, as an organization, as a chapter, can create the specific questions. And as you put it on the dashboard, it allows everyone to see real time on how we are doing in a certain area. And when you begin to understand, now you can measure, here's where we achieved, here's where we hit the mark, here's where we have a little bit more work to do, here's where we've missed it. And I believe that you can take the work of Tiny Pulse, and there's probably other surveys like that, where you can specifically customize it to your chapter to say, are we hitting the mark? Did we really speak to what people were looking for and needing? Okay, so listen, I want to let you know that I love you, and love is not a word that's used in professional or business circles. But by the mere fact that you are on the planet right now, you weren't born in the 18th century, you exist now as a chapter leader, as executive council, as an IAE, because we need you. I love you and I believe in you. And there is not a darn thing you can do about it. We have now entered into this hard conversation. Continue the conversation, because it really is good business. And if you want to find out more, follow me on LinkedIn. You can also reach out to me on social media, Simon T. Bailey, the T like terrific. I know some of y'all are saying, bless his heart. But Simon T. Bailey, or go to my website, simontbailey.com. Listen, remember, having hard conversations is good business.
Wow, Simon, thank you so much for your honesty. Thank you for sharing your family experience with all of us. No parent should ever have to have a conversation about protocol with law enforcement. That one just gives me goosebumps. We are all leaders, so let's go on a journey together to bring about change in our chapters and in this world. And as Simon said, wake up and speak up. So let's take a break for 15 minutes. And be sure to connect into your regional forums at 3:15 today. And immediately after your forums, you cannot, and I mean you cannot, miss the happy hour. I promise you it'll be fun with magicians, giveaways, and maybe even a little improv. I'll see you shortly.
Everyone feeling inspired now? What a wonderful presentation that was. Now, I know everyone wants to go run off and put that burst of inspiration to work, but before you do that, I want to thank our break sponsor, Director Level Industry Partner AT&T Business. They have a mission to inspire human progress through the power of communication and entertainment. Here's AT&T Business with a message about how they can provide a business solution that is right for customers of all sizes.
Hello, IREM members. My name is Jeff Simmons, and I'm a marketing manager with AT&T and an IREM industry partner. AT&T is proud to partner with IREM International, as well as more than 20 local IREM chapters nationwide. I work with property managers to help them leverage the value of AT&T fiber in their buildings and to help their tenants take advantage of AT&T fiber to empower their businesses. During these challenging times, it's important to take advantage of all available resources to accentuate the value and the appeal of your buildings to tenants, and AT&T Fiber is a great way to do that. When selecting lease space today, tenants are demanding high-speed and highly reliable internet access. You can stand apart from competing properties and attract new tenants with AT&T Fiber. High-speed internet is critical to your tenants' business operations, and AT&T Fiber provides a highly secure, customizable solution with ultra-fast speeds of up to a gigabit per second and a connection that's over 99% reliable. Whether you have existing AT&T service in your building or need to upgrade from copper to fiber, we'll help you every step of the way with installation and on-site service. AT&T provides local support programs while helping to promote your property as fiber ready to help you differentiate your building and attract new tenants. Empower your property. AT&T continues to build one of the most advanced networks in the country, and we're ready to connect your building to the latest in fiber optic technology. Please reach out to me today. I will ensure you have a local AT&T expert at your service to consult and support you and your tenants on AT&T Fiber and all related matters. My number is 205-492-7527 or JS961E@att.com. Thank you.